around that point, right? 2053, we will have 0% assets. What happened if, instead of 0% assets, how about we just do this? We teach black people what to buy exactly. So let's say you bought Bitcoin, you bought Ethereum, you bought gold, right? You bought some of the top stocks, you bought SPY, right? And now you set this in a portfolio, right? And you dollar cost average, right? Every single month. Now, what you would do is you would take your net worth, and my income that I want to allocate towards investments. So let's say it's 20%, right? We got to be aggressive. So let's say, 5% of that went to gold, 5% of that went to stocks, 5% of that went to crypto, and another 5% went to, let's say, just educating yourself, because that's an investment as well. So what is that return over the next 20 years, right? Because if you look at Shenzhen, China, you notice they was able to bring themselves
I can
up.
look it up right now, right here, brother. I'll bring out the calculator right now. Hold on. Give me 2 seconds. Calculator. I'm gonna look it up so that way we could get some good game.
Yeah.
And I want to share it with them too.
Yeah, let's get to it. Cause it's like, we think about school, right? And school robs 80% of, specifically in the black community, 80% of black wealth goes towards, college debt, right? And I think it was what was that, Michael Robert Johnson. He was breaking down that statistic. So
let's get into it, my brother. You see this chart right here?
Yeah.
All
so
right,
let's look at what the average American makes. How much does the average American make? That's what we're gonna look at, and we'll use that average American as a benchmark for percentage rate for a portfolio.
All right. So you about to Google that right now, or you want me to Google it?
I can Google it. Let me see if
I can pull it right now.
Yeah.
How much?
Pull it up.
How much? So we gonna break it down so everybody can get it. Sorry, I'm typing with one finger as I average American make per year.
Yeah. So I thought it was something around, so people saying 55,000. I thought it was around 52. You know what I'm saying? Which sounds solid. Now, this is what I want you all to
They
understand.
said 60. So what you want to do?
Let's do it in the middle. Let's do 60. I like 60.
60?
Yeah.
I don't know if niggas getting to 60 though.
A
50?
You want to do a 50 piece? Let's do a 50 piece to be in the middle.
All right, come on, 50. All right, so let's bring back up that calculator. Now, people make 50K a year.
Average for the average American, that's taking in Asians, whites, browns, melanated.
Yeah, that's probably why it's 60 then. If it's not average black Americans, yeah.
Yeah, no, that's different. So it's taking in the average. So let's say if the average person at 50 is taking 20% of their income, they being aggressive, right? 20% of their income, and they're allocating it towards, let's say, because I'm trying to give you an easy way to calculate.
So 20% of 55K. Let me go ahead and do that. 20%. You said 50 or 55K?
50. I want a flat number.
$50,000.
Yeah, with inflation, that's even less. So we ain't even get into inflation yet.
What the fuck? Why would they give me that as a calculator? I think it's 10,000 though.
Oh, I saw you.
So it's 10,000.
What's 20% of 50,000? I could do it on my head. It's 10,000. So
10,000. So 10,000 is the number. So basically, if I could just, so we doing Bitcoin, or you want to do stocks? Because I can show them a good way to calculate their stocks too.
Let's just give them the game. Let's do both, right? So let's do Bitcoin, and then let's do stocks.
Okay. So can you see this?
To make it simple for you, we ain't even got to go over previous years. Let's start from this year. How much Bitcoin is up, and if you dollar cost average based on its trajectory right now, what's the estimated growth it'll be by the end of the year?
So I don't know how to calculate this. This is an investment calculator, so I would have to look up a Bitcoin calculator, which I don't have, but I know I can give them game on that end. Maybe you got some tool.
I'm about to do year to date where Bitcoin is at. Bitcoin is up 40% this year, right? So 40%. So let's just say, which is crazy. We ain't even got. I mean, we don't have to do this year. We can go to the total of what Bitcoin has always been. Bitcoin is up 347% over the past 5 years. So I mean, you know, it's a good looking investment. You know what I'm talking about when you're talking long term. But let's go to stocks just to give them a simple example. So use the SPY if you want
I
to.
got you. So can you see this, bro?
Mm-hmm.
So perfect. I'm gonna give y'all a good example on a good strategy you guys can use. So let's use y'all numbers. So I'm going to tell you guys my strategy that got me rich, which I just posted. So let's just say I start with 1,000, right? The starting amount will be 1,000. All right, and then this will be, so now let's say we set up a 10-year plan. Let's see what it is in 10 years. Now all I want is 10%. Now how can we get that 10%? Two ways. You can either get 2 Apple high yield savings accounts. You and your wife get one. You get 5%. She get damn near 5%. That's 10% a year, right around 19, right?
Right.
So you could get 10% that way, 2 high yield savings accounts, or you can invest the money yourself into safe stocks like dividends, dividend investing stocks, or VTI, stuff like that. So let's just say you're putting in $1,000 a month. Let's see how much you'll get after 10 years with just $1,000 a month. So this is why investing is important. So in 10 years, you will have 200K saved up. So for the big baller, this is for the people. So if you start with 1,000 and after 10 years with just 10% annually, you will have 200 racks. All right. Now let's see how to get to $1 million. I'll show you. You have to invest about 3,000. Right? You have to invest about 3,000, and that's over a 14-year period, right? So with a starting amount of 1,000, after 14 years with a 10% return, you will have $3,000 at the end of each month. Let's see how much you'll get. That will be $1 million. All right. So in 14 years, just putting up $3,000, and all you need is a 10% return. So that means 2 Apple savings accounts can get you 10%. And so let's just say you put up $1,500 and then your girl put up $1,500.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? In 14 years, you guys will literally have that amount. You get what I'm saying? So I look at stocks. So now you got to ask yourself, so now you know how long it's going to take you. So the shortest route that I could find for me getting rich was $3,000 a month. So let's just say, okay, now you know it takes 14 years to get to $1 million. So soon you're gonna be like, okay, let me put in 5,000. Let's see what happens when I put in 6. And then your time slowly creeps down, and next thing you know, you a millionaire in like 7 or 8 years because you took the 14-year route. So that's what I tell people: take the long route, see how long it'll take, then shorten it. That's what I said on your stage. Remember that? And that's what calculator I was referring to on your stage. When was this? Like 3 days ago.
Yeah. No, so that's not 3K per month if it's 10K per year, right? Like now, here's the thing. You know what I mean? Now, the average person say, well, they not, and we talking melanated people. We probably breaking it down to I say around $32,000. I feel like in the Black community, the average amount, you know what I mean, is somewhere around 32K, not 50K, right? And this works for regardless of however much you make. And you have to understand, like, you'll work a job and not getting a raise, and that raise is never a raise if it doesn't outpace inflation, right? So if the cost of goods go up and you're only getting paid as much as the cost of goods, you didn't get a raise, right? And this is why investment is important, right? Now, if you look at the people who have the top and the most stock accounts are the Asians, right? Then it's whites, right? And then it's brown and blacks. You know what I'm talking about? So this is where you want to get into investing and you want to get into entrepreneurship, right? Or for me, entrepreneurship is skillship, right? Develop a skill to pay the bills. So you got to look at your net worth, right? What is your net worth? And if you want to calculate your net worth, all you got to do is say, okay, what is my debt? So how much money do you owe on them credit cards? How much money do you owe in bills and things of that nature? So first, write down your debt. Get that number. You want to know that number at all times. That's the number to attack. That's the number to kill, right? Then you're going to say, okay, what is my income, right? How much money am I making versus how much money do I owe? right? Then you want to look at what are your assets. So what do you own that has a value, right? So you can have $100,000 in debt, right? But you could have, you know, an asset, whether it's a house that's worth $100,000, right? So now that'll bring your net worth to what? Zero, right? Essentially, right? Because you got to cancel out that debt based on your net worth. But $30,000 a year, $50,000 a year. Now the income represents your net worth because that's the positive balance, right? So, you know, debt is also your liabilities, your spending, right? How much do you consume every month? You have to minus that as well based on, you know, whatever lifestyle costs that you have, right? If you want to get to it. And then the last one I'll add in there is your sources, right? So how many sources of income and how much do those make? Now, if anybody on here, there's plenty of people here today that only have one source of income. We talk about multiple sources, but the reality of it is most people only depend on a job, right? So $50,000 a year is not hard to obtain. How much is that per month? Let's break this shit down because we're gonna get to the skills in a second. Because right now we're just talking about paycheck and time, right? When we get to the skill set, the game changes completely different. That's when your time becomes completely different. The way you view time, the way you view life becomes different. While you're on a mechanical 9 to 5, right?
So that's about 4,100 a month.
You said how much?
200 a month.
Okay.
4,200 a month for 50K.
How much is that per day? So
Per day?
let's do 30 days.
All right, so that would be divided by 365. So let me 4,200. You said per day, right?
Yes, sir.
All right. I don't know why it's not letting me add it. 4,200 divided by 365. Hold on, let me do it one more time. Just Google calculator.
Now, this is what you got to understand, right? Because we gonna talk a little bit about the problem and talk about solutions and solves, right? And this is something that your family can use for the rest of their life, right?
Right.
So, you know, the earning a middle class income does not guarantee middle class economic security. Number one, because there's so many other factors that go into it, right?
So that's 100 and per day, 50,000 divided by 365 is $137.
All right. So you gotta make $137 per day.
Right.
Right. You know, we're not forgetting about taxes. That doesn't have to be calculated into this at the moment, right? We talking about income. You know what I mean? We're not talking about net right now, right? So we're talking about what you can actually produce, right? Which is very.
Then you gotta ask yourself, brother. We just saw that it takes $137 to make 50K a year. So somebody got to ask themselves, what can I do in one day to free myself from my job to get me over $100 a day? So that's first and foremost. People say, okay, how do I quit my job? How do I free myself from my job? The only thing that I found 5-6 years ago was trading. I was like, okay, I can make over $100 a day trading. You get what I'm saying? But you got to be comfortable with that. See, a lot of people get greedy and want $1,000. That's why traders lose, because of the greed and the oversizing, right? But there's plenty of ways. I saw something on, they said it takes 4 hours to make $100 driving Uber. 4 hours.
And this is the important part, because what the poor class do not have and what the middle class do not have, which is the most important thing that the wealthy class do, is time. The most important thing that separates the differences is time, right? So you have to understand that if you are in the poor class and you don't have your own time and you can't control your time, you don't even have time for education, right? You don't have time to heal. You don't have time to rest, relax. You don't have time to be creative, right? All of these things are necessary in order to live a certain quality of life, right? So even when we talk about, okay, you have to drive a car to get money, all of that time in between that you could have been using that time for, right? That's life. That's completely different, right? So, you know, think about how much time it takes. And this is where we at in this new AI economy. right? And you have to understand in the skill economy, people are afraid of their job being disappearing, but people that have skills are not afraid of their skills disappearing, right? But more importantly, creative thinking, emotional intelligence are very important, right? So think about this. You have a job, and if you don't know how to manage your time and your energy, somebody else has to manage your time and your energy for you. So they determine how much your time and your energy is worth, right? So they say, okay, if you work this job and the average black man makes 42,000, average black woman makes somewhere around $38,000, $36. That was an old statistic, but it's still close to where it is today. We're talking about average, right? Now, if you need somebody to manage your time, then they can tell you what your time is worth to them, right? So, hey, I need you to work for an hour. That hour is only worth $14. That hour is only worth $17. That hour is only worth $20, right? So that's a cap on how much you can make with your time. Your time, no matter what you do, no matter how hard you work, in that space of time, it will never go beyond that. Now, you're going to be waiting for a raise, and you're thinking you're actually making money. Let me tell you a story. I quit or fired my job one time because they offered me a raise. Now, it sounds counterintuitive, but I was sitting at the door and I was working. At the time, I was working security a while ago. And the manager came in. His name was Johnny. He walked in and then thought he was cool. He had a trench coat on. It was cold outside. Tried to walk up to me like he was shy. He talking about some Keys. He must have just sensed the disappointment in my mind. He said, Keys, I'm going to give you a raise. He said, we go up your $1.10. And I'm listening to this nigga tell me this shit in my ear. And I just had an epiphany. And I'm thinking, and he kind of like just walked off. And I said, did this nigga just offer me $1 for my time? You know what I'm saying? Like, it forced me to evaluate how much I was worth in that moment. And at that moment, I swear to God, he if he ever, out there, he tell you the story. I told him, I texted him right after that. I said, you got to find somebody else to cover my shift because I'm gone. And I left. And I never came back to that. Right now, right after that, I had got an offer to go work somewhere that was paying me 3 times that much. Right? You understand me? But most people don't know how to value their time. So when you know who you are, it becomes different because I already know what I can do with my time. You know what I'm saying? So I know that in this hour, I can learn this, and this hour can be worth infinite. And so this is where you got to get to understanding how much your time is worth is depending on what you know and what you're willing to do with that skill set, right? So I fired them ASAP-ish, you know what I'm talking about? And then I started working another job that paid me $100,000 per year, right? Because I had to learn the skills. I had to learn how to sell. I learned how to sell. I was able to get commission. Then I thought about it, right? Because the brother talked about taxes. They take a certain amount of taxes. I thought about it. I said, wait a minute. What if I work for myself? If my skill set is worth millions to them, because I was selling millions of dollars for them. I said, if my skill set is worth millions for them, how much is it worth to me, right? So I said, well, if I fire them and work for myself, I'm sure that I can make that much for myself, right? So I went from a job to a business, right? And then when we talk about trading, and this is why it's important when we talk about trading and skill sets, even within, that job, there was a certain amount of cap. You understand me? The business is not capped off, but you can't just explode without certain things and parameters set in when you're talking about growth, right? So when I got a skill set and I started a business, I made my first $100,000 in a month, right? So I went from $100,000 a year, $100,000 a month, to when I learned how to trade crypto, I had my first $100,000 day, right? Now, this is not telling you these are the results that may happen, right? But if I didn't have that skill set, the possibility of me making that within a day would have never happened, right? And what I'm telling you is how valuable my time became. It went from a year time that I thought was $100,000 work, and I was
it's kind of breaking up a little bit.
you hear me now?
Yeah, I can. It's probably like a connection thing, but like it'll like go in and out sometimes. Just so you're aware. But now they can hear you though.
So just to wrap up that point, man, it went from my year was worth 100,000 to my month was worth 100,000 to my day was worth 100,000, right? And so, like I said, I'm not telling you that this is some magical results. I'm just telling you the mindset on how I was able to see reality completely different, right? And I was working for somebody that was paying me $10 an hour, right? And so, you know, the levels of life, the gain that you get determines, you know what I mean, the value that you can proceed and create and produce, right? So when we talk about, you know, your income, your skill sets, your education, all these things matter to determine how much your time is worth. In the poor class, the one thing they don't have time, and everybody determines how much their time is worth. So we're trying to give you a long-term mindset. I'm not telling nobody they're gonna make no $100,000 in a day, right? At all, whatsoever. But I'm telling you the possibilities, because I know for a fact on your job it's not even possible. It's not even possible, right? The possibilities change when you determine your time and your energy and what it's worth. Intellectual property, right? When you get a skill set that can't be unlearned, you have that value for the rest of your life, right? That means you learn something that they can't take away from you, right? So now you've increased your value just based on your skill set that you have, right? So how much is that worth?
So let's brainstorm on some skill sets that you believe that. Okay, so let me ask you this then. Let's just say, what skill sets would you recommend to, if you had a son, right, and your son was like, Dad, what should I do? What would you tell your son? Like, what skill sets would you tell him to acquire to make sure he doesn't have to go get a 9 to 5, in your honest opinion?
All right, that's a good question. You know, and here's the thing. Getting a 9 to 5 is not a bad thing if you get it for the right reasons, right? Like for me, number one, and this is what y'all want to understand about jobs. Most people don't use jobs as a ladder and a stepping stone, because you go to a job to get an education. You don't just go to a college to get an education. You learn about yourself, right? Because one thing he gonna have to learn is a work ethic. You know what I'm saying? If he don't have a work ethic, then it don't matter. He can't do nothing. So I had a lot of jobs in my life, and I had great work ethic. My pops told me the same way you sweep the floor, you know what I'm saying? You got to do that shit with mastery, because your habits, you understand me, is going to bleed into everything else that you do, right? So if you are lazy for somebody else, what makes you think you're not going to be lazy for yourself? Because you developed a habit, right? So you have to be careful when you're doing something and you don't do it at a master level, and then all of a sudden you think you're going to switch over to being a master when you're working for self. So if you're a poor employee for somebody else, you will be a poor employee for yourself. So work ethic is the number one thing that he will have to develop, because otherwise I won't believe him when he say he want to do something and I know how much it takes, right? So, you know, critical thinking is number one for me. If he doesn't know how to critical think and analyze reality and situations, because that's where a lot of my value comes from, being able to think, right? Being able to analyze situations, being able to strategize. Strategy is important. So if I take a step back, strategy means it's like playing chess. I can look at the field. AI comes, right? Instead of asking people, hey, what do I do? I'm going to take a step back and I'm going to say, wait a minute, what's the history of it? How did this thing come about? What's the cycles when new technology comes around, right? He got to have the ability to strategize and research. And then I'm going to teach him not ask people and follow other people. I'm going to teach creative thinking, right? Because for me, most of the skill sets lie in the way that you analyze the world, right? I've been able to have the success because of the way that I look at the world and the way that I view the world, right? That's number one, right? And then learning strategy means that life is a war, right? But you learn a way that you can go about looking at things and doing things every single day, right? You learn the way of things, right? So for me, it's about critical thinking. It's about creative thinking, right? Then he got to learn salesmanship, right? Salesmanship is still one of the highest paying skill sets in the world, right? Learning how to, communicate and sell something is key, right? Like if my son, learns how to sell, then he can be of value to anybody in the world, right? Because so let's say Aristotle is a multi-millionaire, which he is, making all the money, and I come to you, Aristotle, and I say, hey, listen, I'm the greatest salesman in the world. And that means I automatically have a value to you. So you're going to say, okay, well, if you sell my product, I'll make you an affiliate or something, right? So all of a sudden, he goes and he analyzes the value that you've created, and he figure out a way to sell it to people that need it, right? So now he is making value for you, right? And he's creating value for himself, right? Branding, not just marketing. Most people market, most people don't know how to brand, right? A brand is a completely different thing than a marketing, right? Marketing is really, think about what it is. It's a market. You're telling people that you're in that market, right? But brand is your true reputation. It's an art that goes along to the way that you are able to create a brand that has a reputation, right? That has an archetype, right? That has a personality to it, right? So him being able to create a brand gives them the opportunity to be able to create a community, to create business industry around that. And he can take somebody else's brand and take it further. So if I pass him down a business, I need him to innovate. I don't need him to do the same thing that I did. I need him to take a look at it and how do you take it further, son? Right? And content creation. Content creation will change in the future, the way things will be done, right? Because AR, VR, spatial reality, AI, but at the same time, whatever the industry of content is, you need to learn how to make it. Why? Because you can't sell anybody anything unless you get their attention, right?
I'll tell you what I tell my son. I always thought of this because I got a son, so it's like he only 3 years old, but I've been mentally preparing myself on how I'm gonna try to make it to where my son can survive without me. Because one thing I see is a pattern within the rich communities, no matter white, black, whatever. Some people, not all, struggle with setting their kids up for a path without needing their parents, correct? So
Yeah.
if I was to, of course, I would like to pass down businesses to him, but I already got things in my mind that I'll say, son, here are things. Of course, by that time, I probably already have properties, all that stuff. I plan on giving my children residual income, like streams of income that they can't fuck up on. So let's just say I got some rental properties, and I'm like, look, I got $5,000 cash flow right here. Here's yours, 5,000. So I'm gonna set my children up for that, but I'm only going to give them cash flow type things. So that's my job as a parent, right? Now, second, I want to tell my son, like you said, content creating is one. I would definitely let them know you have to learn the skill of video editing, content creating. That's first and foremost too. Because you want to be able to advertise your own product. So in need, if you have an idea, you need to know how to make this product go, just like 19 said. Two, of course, stock investing. Being able, as long as you have the skill set to know how to turn a little something into a lot, you'll always succeed. So that's something I would pass down to my child. Generational knowledge on stocks and teaching him long term, like this game right here. Like, son, I gave you cash flow. I gave you $5,000 a month. All right, cash flow of these rental properties. Right. So in my daughter, I do the same thing. So $5,000 a month. If you invest that, son, with a 10% return, so you don't use the money I give you, in 14 years, you'll have 1.7, son. So you don't want my money. I gave you cash flow. I gave you $5,000 a month of cash flow. Invest it, son. Put it into dividend stocks or a high yield savings account. Do something with that. But don't use my 5,000 to live. Use it to invest. All right. And you need to go make your own money. You get what I'm saying? So I plan on just teaching him so many strategies of like, I would say stocks, content creating, video editing. What's another skill I would say him for? IT, tech. So tech, him learning, he don't have to learn coding, but you will have to go learn some tech. So tech's like whether it's app development, whether it's something, just make yourself valuable and useful. But investing is a must. Period. Like in my household, you have to learn how to invest. Content creating.
And not to cut your wisdom, but when it comes to it, like, and this is the thing you got to understand about children, right? And you understand about yourself. Each child is born with a set of genetic code from each parent that makes them unique. So there's certain things that they're going to automatically be wired towards. Your job is to get that child to be self-aware about what's inside them and who they are, from not from who you want them to be, but from who they already are from a genetic code aspect. So it's like saying, if you were born and you didn't know your parents, let's say Michael Jordan is your father, and nobody ever put you in front of a basketball before, right? Nobody ever put you into sports. You wouldn't even know that you were athletically inclined, right? But if you knew that was your father, you may pick up a sport just because you know that that's in your DNA. Then you go find yourself good at it, and it's gonna make you feel good about it. Then it's gonna make you pursue it, right, with a passion. Doesn't mean you go stay there, but you know yourself. So understanding your parents help you understand what's inside you, and then you get to add things on top of that based on how you develop yourself, your talents, your gifts, and your skills. So I teach my son, number one, understand your personality type, understand your intelligence type, understand your design type, understand your parents, understand the world and the time that you're living in, what cycle we are in, right? And this is important because the world goes through cycles. So, when you are able to identify the cycles, now you're able to strategize and make move according to what you need to be doing, not just for now, but for the future. And this is why I'm gonna teach my son to think like he's gonna be the greatest thinker in the world, right? Because a man is the way that he thinks, right? Like that means like nobody gonna be able to outsmart him and outthink him, right? And then when it comes to practical skill sets, money management, cool, but possibly in the future, niggas won't have to money manage no more. They probably have an AI that's gonna be money managing everything for you. So I have to think about what skill sets will even be valuable, and that's why I'm saying thinking, because some of these things may be outdated. Some of these thinking will never be automated or never should be automated. You understand me? Like once you automate thinking, you become a zombie, right? But as long as he can think in the world, doesn't matter if it's crypto, doesn't matter if it's AI, doesn't matter what is the thing that is the big thing, he's going to know how to adapt and pivot.
It's
right?
a lot of things I will teach my son too. Like we could talk on this too, because I know you have excellent points. Like checking men the first time they disrespect you. You must address all men the first time they disrespect you. Because they slap your head once, they gonna do it again. You get what I'm saying? So and that goes in business. You'll see. I had that in life before I even got in business. Like all men get checked, but then when they got to business, you got to learn that skill because people will try it. People will try to get you in a horrible deal, and you gotta stand up for yourself. So that's skills that you gotta learn as a man, is standing up for yourself. Because if not, business is gonna be hard in the first place. Everybody gonna take advantage of you. You know what I'm saying? If you like just take the price everybody gives you, So what's your opinion on that?
Conflict resolution and the proper handling of people is what I learned I learned the proper handling of people from my father, right? And not just through demonstration. I watched how he dealt with. Now in the nation, you do have a handbook that's the proper handling of people, right? How to handle conflicts, how to handle subordinates, how to handle different situations. Now, if you have in your mind that in every situation there's a way that I know how to handle it, like a rule book, right? Then you're never left from this place where you're overreacting. You deal with things as they come about. And this is where emotional intelligence and confidence and training come in, because my son going to have to be trained up. You understand me? He got to be good with them hands. He got to be tactical. He got to be mental. So therefore, in every situation, he's confident. Teaching them how to leverage, and answering your question in a roundabout way, but even teaching him how to leverage his money and his power. And this is something that most people never talk about. Like, how do you leverage your power, right? When you come to protecting yourself, you have to know how to move the pieces on the board to leverage your power, right? I'm never gonna want my son in a subservient position where he's intimidated by somebody else's power, right? I'm gonna teach him how to gain power in this world, how to gain influence in this world, and how to leverage and wield that influence in this world, right? And conflict resolution is something that most people don't have, but I'm gonna teach him stoicness, right? So when it comes to stoicness, it don't matter if things going good for you or bad for you. You maintain the same mindset. You maintain the same calm energy through everything, right? So therefore, people will never be able to read you and pick you apart because you control your energy, not the circumstances, environment. You dig? So it's about more so men gonna always try you and test you, right? But you got to be above their test and not play their game. Your goal is how do you control the outcome? It ain't about what your enemy may want to get you mad. But is that what you want for yourself? If you do get angry, how would you leverage that anger? Otherwise, stay calm so you can maintain intelligence so you can win every single time that you deal with something. Then ask yourself, how is this a benefit to me? Right? Like most people don't, when something bad happens, most people don't automatically think, how is this going to benefit me? Somebody could dish you and you can automatically think, how will I take the enemy aggression and force and use that against them in a manner to where I come out on top at the other end?
You know what I do when somebody do that to me? I post testimonials. So one guy tried that with me, and all I did was like, okay, make sure you tag me in it. So he get mad, he tagged me. I'm playing his game. He don't know I'm playing chess, not checkers. I go and post testimonials. Then I go screenshot and show him, hey, you just made me 3,000. Thank you. End of discussion. You get what I'm saying? He won't post it. He hasn't posted me again. So I look at stuff like, you're right. Sometimes you got to see, okay, how can this benefit me? Let's just say somebody is outing you. Post testimonial. Now that traffic that you're trying to send to me, they're going to see, oh, wow, he's helping people. Oh, and then, you know what I'm saying? Then in return, I send them the screenshot.
Because you got to understand that hate and love is still, it's potential energy. So let's say if somebody, you know, people make videos about Big Keys, but when they come to the page, people are like, man, you tripping, I'm rocking with Keys. Now, some people go fall off, but some people want to hate on you. So when a person creates some kind of narrative, then people go one around with it, right? That's fine. It actually allows you to filter your audience to see who's actually really real with you, right? If I see you side with the enemy, you was never on my side, right? But hate and love is potential energy that you can convert, and this is what we talk about attention, right? So if a person is hating, they're giving you attention. Now your job is to figure out how you can convert that attention into a positive, right? How do I turn that into a transaction? They came on there to hate on Keys and they liked the crown. He bought a crown. Thank you for the attention. You just made me money. Sometimes your enemy is making content for you and they don't realize it. And your job is to convert that traffic flow, right? And monetize off that hate, right? It's the same thing when you see something on the news and you have a certain level of intellect and knowledge and you be like, oh, the market sentiment is that sell everything. Right? So what are you going to do? You're going to notice that there's fear in the market and therefore you're going to buy, right? So now it changes the way you observe things. It changes the way you react to things. You know what I'm talking about? Because you're always looking to convert what may be seen as a negative into a positive. And when you start looking for opportunities in everything, you find them in everything, right? And this is, you know, wealth is the management of energy. That's what wealth is, right? So by teaching emotional intelligence, how do you manage emotional energy? You got a whole lot of energy, right? If you learn how to manage that, it's the same thing as managing wealth, right? When you have a whole lot of money, right now you have to know where to put that. So as a child, you teach a child when you got a whole lot of energy, figure somewhere to put it to productive. When you have a whole lot of money, figure out somewhere to put it productive. Because if you had a child that has a lot of energy and they put it somewhere negative, now they what? In trouble, right? Now the energy got them in trouble. And then this is where people have money problems, right? So people go through negative experiences and to try to cope with that, they spend money on eating, they spend money on social environments, they spend money on clothes, things that don't matter, right? To try to impress people that don't matter, to try to cover up the real thing, which is the unhealed trauma, which is not dealing with the emotions of going through it and how to deal with those emotions. Same thing with money, right? So, you know, to me, is you know, when you talk about the economy, and you're talking about energy systems, right? And the way you measure a human being's value in a capitalist market is by the measurement of how much money they have. This is why we have millionaires and billionaires, because what we're saying is you control $1 million worth of energy, and that energy can be used to move. Billionaires control billions of what? Ions, which are measurements of energy. So we teach you how to measure your emotional state and measure your financial state, right? So a person that is stoic and calm, they don't care. Somebody can come to them and be like, yo, this is about to make you $1 million. And they're like, I'm not about to jump into that. You're not about to get me on the fear of missing out, right? I got great emotional control. I don't care about that, right? So therefore, they keep emotional, financial stability is emotional stability.
Let me ask you this too. Because when people get money, they're going to go through something called entitlement from their family. So what's your advice on people navigating entitlement when they start getting money?
Expect it. See, if you expect it, then you can't be disappointed from it, right? And I think that's another emotion, right? Is managing your own expectations. You expected to get rich and you expected people to not be entitled. You expected to get rich and you expected people to not ask you for money. You expected to get rich around poor people who didn't grow up, and you expected them to see you the same, right? So you wanted your cake and eat it too. You want the results, but you don't want what comes along with it. There's cause and effect. So when you have an expectation like, oh, if I start making money, people that grew up with me, especially as people that's poor, that need it, that feel like I could be their crutch, that feel entitled, they're going to start seeing me a certain way because that's how human psychology is. When you start looking at your situation and asking, why me, right? Because you acting like this is unique. This is just how human beings react to a person who has an abundance of what? Money. This is how people react to people who have an abundance of emotional resilience. What do they bring you? When they know you have a great mind, and you are super emotionally intelligent, what they bring you? All their problems. Why? Because they know you can handle it. Why? That's why I grade the emotions and the money as the same. That person in the family that ain't never going to nobody else with their problems, they always the person that got a listening ear, that's wealth, right? So they feel like, man, you can afford to listen to my problems and still be good, right?
Yeah,
Same thing, a person bring you their issues, they feel like you can afford to help me out and still be good. Why? Because you are great at managing your energy and you have a lot of it.
Man, that's crazy because you actually gave me perspective. I myself, because I got rich at a young age, I personally wasn't, and because I joined the Army at 18 and I amassed all my wealth myself, meaning no trust fund, no nothing, I was bombarded with entitlement. And I didn't expect it because, I'm young, like when it's a difference between getting it when you're 20 and a difference between you getting it 30 and 40. You're not emotionally mature yet. You just rich. You get what I'm saying? So I wasn't emotionally mature enough because you got to think, I got motherfuckers who 40, 30, 50, 60, 70 coming to me for advice. Mm-hmm. And all I'm trying to do is smoke weed and travel. Mm-hmm. And you know what I'm saying, and live my life and take care of my kids, yada, yada, yada. So I still go through it to this day where I'm trying to transition to the family leader, even though I don't want to be. I just want to be a young guy traveling and getting money. But people see me as the leader. And like you said,
you got all this energy, bro. Now that you hold this energy, and if a person has a negative issue and you have a positive amount of energy, they know you can lend positivity to their negativity. That's what a money problem is. It's negativity. There's a negative thing that I need a positive balance to help take over, right? So they just look at how you can help them. Now, the way to help many people is to not be a crutch for them, because it's like if you never allow your child to stand up on their own, then they never can, right? And it's the same thing with people who have people that are financially great in their environment, right? They become their financial heroes. So you feel like you never have to save yourself because you always have somebody else that's going to save you. So when you get money, you become the financial hero of the family. When there's somebody having money woes and the problems, they like a damsel in distress. They're going to hit you up to be their financial Superman. But that means that they never feel like they need to protect themselves. They, in the back of their subconscious, they feel like, well, if I fall, then they're going to help me get back up, because you become their crutch. They never have to become financially independent, and that's the key.
I told my wife today, I said, baby, I feel like my wealth crippled my family, but it crippled the people who knew me, but it motivated the strangers, and it fucked my head up, because I'm like, they don't want to try anymore because they feel like I'm going to give it to them. But everybody who don't know me is inspired, if that makes sense. So I said it fucked my head up because I'm like, damn, I crippled my family and my friends. Like and then they see my success as, okay, that's too far gone. I can't achieve that. So right. Why even try,
Well, put it like this, brother. Imagine every single day, right? Your family is in this village and they have to travel to this spring to go get water. Right now, this spring is kind of far. They got to go get water from the spring every single day. The spring is like a mile out, right? So, every single day, your family wakes up, right? They all walk together and they go to this spring. Now, one day, imagine you get a spring installed inside your house, right? So the family like, oh, we know he ain't got to go travel no more. I'm going to go to your house anytime I'm thirsty. Now, what starts to happen to that family is They didn't realize that by traveling and going to go get this water every single day, they was working out and it was keeping them healthy. Then they didn't realize they was actually having more family time. They would discuss issues, problems. They were sticking together along this route, right? And so now you get big and disease start to run in the family because they start to let themselves go. Why? Because they no longer have to they no longer have to do it themselves. You already got it for them, right? And they don't realize the trickle effect that down. When you have to go get it on your own, there's a positive things that come along with that, right? You develop your strength, you develop dependency. But then the moment that they come to your door and you say no, and you like, man, I'm tired of y'all coming to my house every day, man. Go get your own spring water. You like, but you got some right there. You got hell of it. And they like, no, man, because first of all, you know, the strength that required me every single day to go out there, the lessons that I learned along the way, the patience, the consistency, the repetition that allowed me to become successful enough to have my own spring, I'm destroying your ability to get that same thing. Because now you can't build that resilience. You can't build those values, that work ethic, right? So the moment you say no, now they mad at you, right? Now the family is tripping on you. You know what I'm saying? And they feel like you stopping them from success. And it's like, no, the spring is out there. Go get it your goddamn self because of what you're going to learn on that journey, right? And to me, that's the metaphor for how money is. People look at your money as a spring. I ain't gotta go travel and get my own when you got it already. I can just come to you and I can depend on you, which means I don't need to depend on myself. So now they're too spoiled and it robs them of the ability to be like you because they don't have to go through the same process because you already went through that, right? And so you have to set up family in a way where it's like, no, in order for you to get access to this spring, you now have to set up conditions that still allow them to deserve it and to earn it because of what comes along with that process of learning and earning. Otherwise, you rob and spoil them of the opportunity of growth.
Yeah, like I feel like I still, you know, struggle with navigating it to this day because it's like shit. Like I said, I joined the army. I was isolated in the army, so I'm not used to talking to people. You get what I'm saying? I'm not used to like I'm still mastering. I feel like I've mastered the money. I'm not worried about the money part. It's like once you start getting money, you no longer care about shit like money. You care about life, like principles, if that makes sense. So all I'm doing today is working on being a better man, physically, mentally, spiritually, all that. You feel me? Financially is on autopilot. Now it's time to correct, not necessarily correct, but try. You get what I'm saying? Because I don't strive for perfection. I feel like striving to be perfect is going to do nothing but depress the human. So I live freely because perfection is very hard to achieve. Like you gotta try not to lie.
You know,
You gotta try not to.
the perfection is a trap because it's a place that doesn't exist and it's a state. The way I look at it is it's like, you know, when something is perfect, anything, it's like a white shirt. A white shirt is perfect when it's clean.
Right.
But any speck of dust and it's not perfect, right? So you're constantly trying to maintain this state that's impossible to keep, right? So even in a state of perfection is instability, right? But the idea of wholeness, right? So what I like to teach is psychological wholeness, right? Don't go for perfection, go for wholeness, right? And in wholeness, you are aware of self on all levels, right? You are responsible for self. You have those traits and those disciplines. You know how to communicate. You know how to network. You know how to foster relationships. You have self-awareness and things of that nature. You are not a half of yourself. You're not denying a part of yourself. You are completely whole, right? And when you are whole, you are an adult, right? Now you know how to go out in the world, manage your emotional intelligence, manage your feelings, right? You know how to manage your money. You have psychological wholeness. And so many people are searching for perfection instead of wholeness. And that is the goal, right? That makes you a roundabout person now that can now deal with things as they come up. So perfection is a trap that, you know, striving for perfection, that idea is honorable, right? But what you
So
really
what
need
is
to know,
perfection? Like what is perfection according to society, in your opinion?
I don't even think society knows. Perfection is for society is the illusion that this person is not even human. Perfection is the illusion that, you know, everything I think good about this person must be true, right? And nothing about this person can be bad, right? That to me is what society looks at perfection. I see Aristotle. I want to imagine everything is good about you. You understand me? And that you have no flaws, you have no issues. I'm taking everything that I don't like about myself and I'm projecting the illusion that you're better than me so I can live through you. And the moment that you let me down, right, then that's when I feel like I need to attack you. That's when I feel like you're not right and, you know, I want to counsel you. But perfection is a trap that people create and is individualized based on whatever somebody else's insecurities. They project the opposite on you. You know what I mean? Because to be human is to actually make mistakes. To be a great businessman is to make mistakes. To be human is to be flawed, but to learn and to grow and to develop. So the question is not whether a person is perfect. The question is whether they're learning. That's the question.
Yeah. So, and I tell you, you ever heard this book called Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck?